welcome to your practice. Take a moment to settle in, to find your seat. Please be on something lifted so you can feel into that lumbar curve. And you can feel into the length of your spine so there's not so much effort. So when you're lifted on something, it reduces the effort of sitting and allows you to lengthen the spine without having to work so hard. And it's such a nice way to start our practice. And you deepen your breath, inhaling deeply through the nose and exhaling deeply. Let's just close our eyes for a moment. Let's let our internal view come into, let's turn up our display brightness, our inner display brightness. We're just tapping into our settings right now. And you can find your left hip in your mind's eye, and your right hip in your mind's eye, and your left shoulder in your mind's eye, and your right shoulder. And in an ideal world, you want those to be symmetrical. And what I mean by that is the left shoulder and the right shoulder should be stacked right over your hips. And the length between your left hip and your left shoulder would be equal to the length between your right hip and your right shoulder. And the length between your left shoulder and your right shoulder, so cross diagonal like a Miss America band, and between your left shoulder and your right hip, so this big X through the center of your body, those should be symmetrical even as well. And I know that's just an optimal idea, but it's what we're working towards feeling into so that we can get to know the shaping of our bodies. And then if you could imagine for a moment that you were standing, you bring your lungs over your feet and your throat over your heart. And then release your hips and your shoulders backwards. So it's a new cue I'm playing around with in my own body as I realize how much tension I hold in my shoulders. And bringing that tension into my yoga practice has not been beneficial for me. It's just increased the tension. So I'm trying to come to it from a different point of view, to release the energy backwards. Just release those shoulders and our hips to the back plane. And just notice how that feels. And then from the center line, from your tailbone up through your crown, you lengthen. And you breathe. Taking the breath in deeply and releasing the breath out completely. And feeling that pause, that turnaround of the diaphragm before you breathe in again. Inhaling deeply, exhaling completely. Waiting softly for that turnaround. Just bringing this breath, brings your mind into the central channel, into that internal view. On your next inhale, you'll take your arms out to the side, and I want you to just stretch and yawn. Oh, just feel into places, and I want you to take that stretch and yawn into what we call pendiculating. So what that means is that you just kind of move three-dimensionally. You can roll a shoulder forward or back. You can lengthen one side and then the other, and you do it slowly as you're moving, as if you're moving through peanut butter, and you're feeling the resistance of the movement even through this air that's around you, and you just notice where you're tight or sore. Couple more. It's just like what you might do when you wake up in the morning and yawn. You're stretching the myofascial fuzz that develops over time, especially while we sleep, and you're just breaking up some of those adhesions that have started to grow or have been growing for a while. One more breath. And then reach both arms up overhead. Shrug your shoulders, extend your spine. Keep breathing, but relax your shoulders and hips back. Let the chin drop in, let the frontal ribs drop in. And then without shrugging the shoulders this time, just lengthen the spine. Get used to finding those little teeny muscles that are inside and along the spine, that you have access to those to lengthen. It doesn't always have to be the big grip of the big gross motor muscles. Beautiful. And then the hands sweep down and back behind you and around and all the way to the lap. And let's just take Gail's idea. So take your right arm and swing it forward in your left. And you can be fairly, relaxed with this. Just big swings. Let's do this as our pranayama today. So you inhale as the arm comes up and drop the exhale as they drop down. Inhale up. Inhale up and hot out. And you're getting a little minor twist with this too, right? So you're just starting to warm up the spaces in the intercostals, and you're warming up that little bit of twist. Inhale deeply and release it. Couple more. Last one. Relax your hands in your lap, close your eyes, just feel into all that beautiful stimulative movement. And then for the next pranayama, we're going to wear out the trapezius muscles that get so tight. And I don't know if you know how the trapezius is shaped, but it looks like a kite. So at the upper top edge, if you touch yourself behind your neck about at C7, so that's that big bony prominence there, where the cervical and thoracic spines meet. If you trace out to your shoulders, that's the top of the kite. So the trapezius looks like a diamond, but it's shorter on the top kite edge. And then you can't stripe this one, but from your shoulders, you draw down, take your hands behind you, and about at your waist, a teeny bit higher than your waist, you'll just touch the spine there. That's where the trapezius inserts. So it drops down like the lower edges of the kite into that position. So if you gently press your thumbs into those bones about 1 finger width above the hips and you lift up, that's the action of the trapezius. When it pulls down, it causes a lot of stress on the shoulders because it's just overstretching it. So you lift it up. You can use your thumbs or the back of your hands. Just kind of lift up that trapezius. Take the stretch off it for a moment. And then just breathe there. And notice if that feels a little relieving and if over time you feel like it's opening and that you could actually start to almost move forward because of the length of the spine. One more breath there. Beautiful. And then just release the hands. Beautiful. Here's where we're going to wear out the trapezius. So now you inhale and shrug the shoulders towards the ears, and you exhale and just drop. Boom. And then we do that with a breath of fire. So it goes inhale, exhale. Go ahead and join me. Really shrug it, really get those traps to have to work. So when they work, they can also then relax because we've stimulated that muscle action. Inhale, exhale. You want to do it till you feel like they can't do it anymore. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shrug them up, squeeze, 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 and let go. Boom. Beautiful. Close your eyes. Feel into that. Maybe you might even notice that there's a spreading of that relaxation from the back of the neck out through the shoulders and then down through the back. Let your hands gently glide into prayer. I'll just take a moment here to set an intention for your practice. Maybe there's something you'd love to make a shift for, a small one or a big one, doesn't matter. When you got that, bow and offer it to your practice. Inhale, come on up, and we'll seal that with a breath and an om together. Inhaling. Feeling your hands still touching. Remember, our theme this week has been staying connected, staying in contact. So we're starting with our own bodies and noticing how great it feels to stay in contact, and then hopefully extending that out to other things that you need to stay in contact with, people, nature, pets, whatever it is that you want to stay connected to. Blink your eyes open, release your hands down. You're going to come back with your block. We're going to take it into our sideline position for intercostal opening. So you're going to take that block on its middle edge there, and you're going to see if you can find that space between the first two ribs. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect. You just work it into that little space. And then you can either just relax your head over if that doesn't feel like too much to you, or you support your head with your hands, or you can always use blocks or blankets if you need more support. And then you just breathe into that and try to hammock your body down onto that block so that the block is catching that upper rib, and it's just creating space between that rib and the next one down. And you also notice as you're working this where you feel the most tightness. It's just a great, not only a great release, but a great educational opportunity for your own body to know. And intercostal openings help us with side bends and back bends and twists. So it's really good to have space. And I'd say, if I were to guess, that the thoracic spine is the one, because it's in the middle. If you take your spine into 3 sections, so you got cervical spine from the clavicles up, and thoracic spine from the clavicles down to about your belly button, and then the lumbar spine from belly button down until you hit sacrum and tailbone. My point being that, okay, let's go ahead and move while I talk. So go up to the next 2. If you could pick one of those that has the most tightness, I would probably venture to guess that many of us, it's in the thoracic spine. And I know that might be a surprise to people because they don't usually feel pain there. Most of our pain we feel in our neck, above the thoracic spine, and below in the lumbar spine. So let yourself hammock onto this thoracic spine. And the reason for that is, and in my understanding, is that you've got trains in the body. You've got the way that the body moves. Let's go ahead and move up to the next rib. So the lumbar spine is built for stability, and the thoracic spine is built for mobility, and the cervical spine is built for stability. And that often surprises people because we know that our neck and our lumbar spine have a lot of movement. So it's surprising that those are stable parts of the spine. Let's move up one more. You should be almost in your armpit by now or just below it. And so the way to remember this, for me anyways, is I think headstand, or I think I live in a culture where I carry a basket on my head with maybe 20 pounds of fruit or vegetables or rocks in it. And so that reminds me that my neck is a stability joint. It's made for carrying weight. And so when the thoracic spine becomes immobile from too much sitting and non-movement, then it makes the neck, the spine above and the spine below, become mobility joints instead of stability joints, so that the body can maintain movement. All right, how you doing there? Let's gently move out. Let's come out of that and let's switch to the other side. So when we start to return the thoracic spine to the mobility spine it's meant to be, it takes the pressure off those other 2 spinal parts. I'm going to find those first 2 spaces, intercostals there, and hammock down and release. So that then the neck and the lumbar spine don't have to take all that movement. They can be the recipients of the thoracic spine's movement. Big deep breath. Notice if that's a little sore or less sore than the other. Go ahead and move. Come up to the next 2. Now, if I'm moving too fast for you, if you notice you've got a place that's really, really tight, be my guest. Go ahead and rest there a little bit longer. So remember, this is your practice. I'm making it more generic for everybody. But you might notice, and then you might take this practice on another day when you're not doing yoga and just do this and see if it starts to free up your shoulders. Go ahead and do another. Go up higher. Find that space, and then also notice, where does it refer to? For me right now, this particular rib refers to my trapezius and somewhere up in my neck. So I know that my neck tightness on that side has a relationship to this part of my body. And I love this work because it just continues to remind us that we are all connected, right? And how important it is to stay in contact with these different parts of ourselves, to bring them into a united whole. Let's go up another. You should be almost in your armpit by now. With that spine hammock down. Sometimes I like to just rest my head down and let it hang so I get a little stretch in the neck. Big deep breaths in, big full breaths out. Beautiful. And we're going to gently come out of that pose. And we're going to come up to standing. And you can go ahead and bring one of your blocks with you as you come up to standing. And you're going to place that block between your shins. And the reason for that is because I want this lower half of the body to stay kind of stable. So the feet are parallel to each other, the knees are soft, and you're squeezing that block. You're going to take your hands and stack one hand over the other. Actually, let's do one more thing before we do that. Let's bend our knees deeply and do a little cat-cow. So hands on the tips of the knees. Inhale. I want you to stick your booty out and lift up your crown. And then exhale, press down and curl and round the spine. Try to keep your neck a little bit out of the equation, so you really have to work into the torso. And then inhale, cow. See if you can get the sitting bones back and apart. And exhale, cat. See if you can just make it happen in the body, pulling the belly back. One more, each direction. Inhale, cow. And exhale, cat. And then from here, take what looks like Utkatasana. So go ahead and bend deeply. You can even rest your elbows on your knees here. Bring your hands into prayer. Shrug shoulders. Externally rotate your upper arm bones as best you can. And then press through the block and come up to standing. You should have just gotten really awake in the thighs. Woo-hoo! All right, so now standing strongly, softening the knees, pressing into that block. Stack your hands one on top of the other. And you're just going to imagine that your arms here are resting on a countertop, and you're going to glide them off to the left. Notice that I'm not letting my hips come with me. So I'm just trying to keep them square and strong, and I'm gliding off to the left. Now you're going to press on that imaginary countertop and take a little cat tilt. Just a little bit of one. It's not a big one. The countertop is not pressing down, but you're going to press down on it and then think cat tilt. And then glide your elbow, your left elbow to the left, push down and cat tilt. Glide your left elbow to the left, push down and cat tilt. Woo! And then come out of that pose. Roll the shoulders, cleansing breath. Take a moment to close your eyes and just notice what that felt like or feels like now in the body. Open your eyes and stack your other hand on top. We soften the knees. We inhale. We glide over on that countertop to the right. Press down and exhale, cat tilt. Inhale, glide the right elbow to the right. Press down isometrically and inhale, cat. The hips are staying mostly square to the front. Glide to the right, press and cat tilt. Inhale, come back to center. Great way to reset the ribs. Close your eyes for a moment And just notice how that feels, especially with your breath. Beautiful. Let's release our block to the floor. Inhale, sweep your arms up overhead. Grab your right wrist and take crescent moon to the side. Now you're going to put the weight on your left foot and take your right foot and cross it behind the left. I'm mostly straightening my right leg, but my left knee is bending. And as I do, now I'm going to shrug and find those intercostals. I'm going to shrug that right shoulder and see if I can remember those block spaces in between each rib. And I'm going to use my abdominals. I'm going to drop my shoulders and hips towards the back of the body. And breathe. Use my abs. One more shrug. And gently find your way out of the pose. And come back to standing. Take a cleansing breath. You can roll the shoulders. Beautiful. Let's go second side. So inhale, sweep. Grab the left elbow or left wrist with the right hand and bow over to the side for crescent moon. Now take your left leg and stack it behind. It's mostly straight. The front knee is soft and bent. And then you breathe there as you drop the shoulders and the hips back. Doesn't matter if the arms are straight. Pull up the abdominals and open the intercostals. Breathe into those spaces. Shoulders and hips drop back. Open and breathe. Last breath. Notice where you feel it. Is it all in intercostals? Are you getting a little in the outer hip as well? Inhale, come on up. Step together. Take a cleansing breath. Whoa. Beautiful. Let's bring ourselves to the floor, back into cat-cow position, but we're going to have our fingertips pointed back. You notice I do this a lot because I think it's easier to externally rotate, so it helps us set up our shoulders better in the very beginning. But it also gives us a wonderful stretch for our wrists. So do the best you can. You want to imagine that you have grapefruits underneath your hands so that you can feel the squeeze of the thumb, the pointer, the middle, the ring, and the pinky finger. And as you inhale, look up and start to externally rotate your shoulders, lift your sitting bones up and apart. See if you can avoid crunching the back of the neck instead of lengthen the back of the neck. Beautiful. And then exhale, pull the belly in and up, and see if you can take the neck out of the equation, and see if you can just pull your abdominals. That means low, middle, and high abdominals until you feel that stretch along the forearm and maybe even the upper back. From here, we gently peel the heels of the hands off the floor. Our toes are tucked under. We're going to sit on back onto tucked toes. We're just going to fly the arms up overhead. This time, we bring the hands up, straight up overhead, and then we flip them around so the thumb comes to the front of the room. And I'm going to call this reverse namaste. It's not really, but you're going to take your hands and press them in an opposite prayer pose. And you're going to let your elbows be soft. And then just drop your abs so you're not just hanging them out, but drop your hips and shoulders back as you press the arms together. And notice if you can get a little more intercostal stretch there. One more breath. Kind of breathe into that like bellows. Good. Notice what hand is in front or what wrist is in front. See if you can figure that out. You might have to look at it. And then exhale, release. And just sparkle your fingers, squeezing and extending. And then we're going to come back into tabletop. This time hands regular. And then as they squeeze the floor, you inhale to cow. But remember that external rotation of the shoulders. And exhale into cat. Remember that abdominal work. And the head just hanging loose. It's not jamming into the chin. Because that'll take the responsibility into the neck as mobility spine. Remember, we want the thoracic spine to get mobile. From here, you're going to release that and sit on back onto your heels. Tuck toes if you can. Encircle your arms up overhead. If you had the left wrist in front, take the right wrist in front. Turn the palms around, reverse namaste. Soften the elbows, press into the hands. See if you can get in those upper intercostals. It might be almost towards your shoulders. Drop the shoulders and hips backwards. Just let them go for a moment. Give them a break. And then drop in your frontal abs and see if you can get more length through the crown. Breathe. Let's try for one more breath here. Beautiful. And release. We're going to move into a little bit of a child's pose, but with a little bit of a different emphasis. So grab your blanket and roll it up into a burrito roll. So this is going to mimic one thing I've been aware of lately, because I have a grandchild. I get to go to the park a little bit more, and I'm noticing how good it feels to hang and how therapeutic that has been for my shoulders. So if you have a bar you can hang on, great, but if you don't, here's a way you can do that as well. You grab your bolster and you want to kind of roll it away from you as far as you can, and you can either tuck your toes under if you want more of an active child's pose, or flatten if you want a less active one, and you just grab that blanket. It can be kind of wide if your shoulders are tight, and you just sit on back. Don't let your heart just sink and hang to the floor. See if you can externally rotate the upper arm bones, and see if you can stretch and hang from the bolster. Breathe. Couple more breaths. If you've got a little release, roll your bolster forward and then grab it again. Get that lovely stretch of the shoulders.
Are the shoulders plugged?
Are they plugged in?
Yeah.
You know, what's more important to me is that they're externally rotated. I don't mind if you unplug them a little bit right here. I want you to get that great extension of the shoulders. How does that feel when you do it, Gail? Does it feel okay? Doesn't feel pinchy or angry or scary?
Yeah, it feels okay. I just wasn't sure where I should be.
Yeah.
Okay,
I really
thanks.
Today I really want the intercostals to open, so I want you to let that hang for a moment. All right, come on out of that. Just sit down, Virasana, for a moment as you move your blanket off to the side, and just take a moment to feel into that. And usually the feeling into it will give you a clue on whether that was good for you or not. So the only not good for you in that is, in my thinking, is that you internally rotate the upper arm bones at the shoulder. I want you to learn that deep external rotation. And see how that feels on your neck even. You might notice a little more freedom in the neck there. Okay, we're going to come onto our hands and knees and take our first downward facing dog. So toes are tucked under. Inhale, cow tilt. Exhale, dog. And let's go ahead and bend your right knee and stretch your left leg long. And you can really bend that right knee. Like, you can really pull that knee into the chest. And you can really increase the heel on the left side. Really get it down into the floor, like root it down. As you do, can you lift up the sitting bone on that same side? And release on that and switch sides. So straighten your right leg, bend your left knee, bend it, bend it, bend it, bend it. So it's almost like you want to pull it into the belly. And then root down your right heel, and at the same time bring the sitting bone action up into the hips. And then remember what we just did. So as if you're holding on a bar, gently rotate the upper arm bones and extend through the spine. All right, go ahead and lift your heels up and back down to the floor and walk your hands back to your feet for ragdoll. Take your feet wide on the sticky mat. Bring your elbows to the knees. And now I want you to take your left inner thigh and rotate. I'm actually going to turn around so you see my booty on this one. I don't know if it's going to help or not, but you got these nice stripy pants to help. You're going to take your inner left sitting bone and swing it off to the left. So it's going to feel asymmetrical, and you're going to even look in that direction. And so it's like you're trying to get that inner thigh wider than the other inner thigh. And the booty is sticking out, good. And then come back to center and do the other one. So I'm using my foot on that side, and I'm taking the inner thigh and that sitting bone and really swinging it hard off to the right. And you can even look over towards it and then go back to first side again, so you're swinging and looking. And then you're swinging and looking to the other side. Notice which one feels harder to do, a little more awkward. Then come back to center. Can you do both of those at the same time? And can you notice that gives you a lumbar curve? Now draw your belly in and up. Cinch the front edge of your body together from sternum to pubis. Good. And then release down and walk yourself down into downward facing dog. Beautiful. From here, I want you to release your right hand from the floor. And you're going to point it towards your outer left ankle. And you're just going to reach it. You're going to reach it as far as you can reach it. And then release it. Take your left hand, release it from the floor, and reach it to your outer right ankle. Reach, 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 reach. So you see that you're getting a little opening twist in the ribs. And release. Now we're going to do that back and forth. So right hand reaches on the exhale. Then it plants on the inhale. And then the other one reaches on the exhale. And it plants on the inhale. So we're mobilizing those ribs. Reach on the exhale and plant on the inhale. And just notice where you feel the tightness or the release. And when you think you've reached as far as you can you reach another inch? One more each side. Reaching, exhale. Inhale and exhale. And release that. Tippy toes, walk your way to the front of the mat. Uttanasana, bow deeply. Inhale, halfway up, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Utkatasana, reach for a block. Bring the elbows to the knees. Squeeze that block, shrug your shoulders, externally rotate. Draw in your front body, make your legs strong. And inhale, come up to standing. Beautiful, just drop your block off to the side. Hands come to prayer, take a cleansing breath. Exhale, release your hands, soft knees. Inhale, fly. Exhale, dive, Uttanasana, standing forward fold. Inhale, halfway up, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, soften the knees. Take your right leg back to a bent knee lunge. Just drop that back knee to the floor. And take a few breaths here, just noticing if you're dropping out the right hip. So does it just drop and hang to the floor? If so, use a little muscle action on that back leg and bring the right hip up till it's equal distant from the floor with your left hip. So the hips are a little more square. And then remember that work we just did with the hips flaring out left and right. So you can squeeze the left knee into the left arm, and then you're just going to flare those hips. Breathe. Pull in the belly. Last breath. Inhale. As you exhale, start to rock forward and back. Uttanasana. Bowing deeply. Inhale, halfway up, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, soften the knees. Take the left leg back to a bent knee lunge. Take a moment in this first lunge of the day to notice your tendencies. And if your tendency is to drop that left hip towards the floor, the hip point, just use the back leg to draw that hip up till it's about even, kinesthetically anyways, with the right hip. And then pressing the right knee into the right elbow, can you flare the sitting bones apart? Take one more breath there. And then you're going to release the effort, place your hands down on the floor, push on back to plank pose. And in this plank pose, I want you to soften your knees and I want you to feel the strength of the legs. So don't worry that you're perfect plank, just a soft plank. And I want you to push without straightening. I want you to push through your legs to take your crown longer. And then grab the floor and externally rotate your upper shoulders. I think you'll feel the connection here. Good. And then drop your knees to the floor. Look forward. We're going to take reverse cobra. So as you look forward and the heart starts to come forward, bend the knees towards your outer ribs. Externally rotate your upper arm bones and come down very slowly. When you get down all the way to the belly, you stack the hands on the floor, rest your head, and you inhale and lift your hips, creating that lumbar curve. And take a few more breaths there as you lift and adjust and use the legs and use the core and lift those hips high. Can you think about those sitting bones flaring here? And then release out of that. Beautiful. Plant your hands by your chest. External rotation as you cobra to tabletop. In your tabletop, listen carefully. You're going to swing your legs to the right, or you're going to swing them over to the right side of the mat. So now they're perpendicular across the long edge. It sounds harder than it is. Take your right hand and turn it out. Take your left leg and reach it straight. So now you're just on one leg and one arm, or, those are underneath you. And then you open up your left arm to the sky. So it's a little bit like side plank, but you're supported. Go ahead and peek at your long-legged foot, that's your left one, and push the floor away and then open back up. Release the shoulders and hips towards the back plane. And just enjoy this nice stretch. You can start to let the left arm go overhead. You could even take reverse hand position so you get into those intercostals. Shrug the shoulder there. Unglue some of those ribs. Beautiful. And then release. Come back to tabletop. Take a cleansing breath. Okay, same thing. So you swing your knees or your feet off to the left so they're perpendicular to the mat. The left hand turns out a little bit. The right leg goes out long. Go ahead and look at it. Make it square to the back of the mat. And then inhale, open your right arm to the sky. Beautiful. And then just release the shoulders and hips back a little bit. And you can start to take that arm up overhead for a long stretch. And you can externally rotate and try to unglue those intercostals. Keep remembering that shoulder hip back idea and the abdominals drawing in and up. One more breath. And then release that. Come on back to tabletop. Inhale, cow tilt. Exhale, downward facing dog. Another breath there. Letting the head just hang out of the spine. Inhale, tippy toes. Walk your way to the front of the mat, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Reach for the block. Hopefully it's handy. Utkatasana, elbows on the knees. Pressing into that block. Squeeze. Shrug. Externally rotate. Bring in your abdominals. Take a breath to get really connected deeply to yourself. And then as you're ready, you press that shape up towards standing and you release out your block and your hands and take a cleansing breath. Exhale, let your hands just release down by your sides. Inhale, fly them up overhead. Exhale, dive forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Bend your knees, take your left leg back to a bent knee lunge. Even out those hips. Find them square and opening, and then walk your hands up to the front knee. Press down and forward like you're doing core work. Good, and then sweep your left arm up to the sky and bow over to the right and turn the palm up and feel that stickiness and just stretch into it. See if you can drop shoulders and hips back a little bit. You might notice that you get a little more stretch in the abdomen. Beautiful. And then release that, but stay in the pose. Bring your left elbow to your left knee. So you start with prayer. Beautiful. The hands come into prayer pose. Now, let's not do them in prayer. Let's stack them like we did before. So the legs stay sturdy and strong. We inhale, we glide the right elbow up to the sky. We exhale, press the hands and take cat tilt. Inhale, glide that left elbow up. It's going to be subtle. Press on the hands and take cat tilt. One more, glide, press, cat. Beautiful. That'll really mobilize those ribs there. Rock it forward and back. Uttanasana, standing forward fold. Inhale, halfway up, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, right leg goes back, bent knee lunge. Pause to even out the hips, activate them. Slowly walk your way up onto the front knee, press down and forward with those hands. Release the right hand down, sweep it up overhead, and bow over to the left. You can turn the palm face out to get those sticky places, but relax the shoulders and hips back a little bit. So you get a little bit more into the belly, little bit more back bendy. Good, and then exhale, release your right elbow to your left knee. Take your time to set it up. Place your hands in prayer. Not prayer, stacked. Keeping the hips stable. In fact, if you want to look forward, just to note where they are in space, you can. And then press the hands down into each other isometrically. Glide the left elbow up to the sky. Exhale, cat. Inhale, glide, press, cat. Glide, press, cat. Woo! Beautiful. Release that. Step on back to plank pose. That'll really teach you to mobilize those ribs. Find your plank pose. Soften your knees. Press strongly through the crown, inhaling. Exhale, drop the knees. You're going to go reverse cobra. So keep the legs engaged. Oh no, I lost my Zoom. Oh, you there? Oh, good. I lost you for a second. You're all back? Where did I lose you? Anybody? Has it been a while? Can you hear me? Someone wave if you can hear me.
Cynthia, something's gone wrong.
Can you hear me?
You're not the big picture.
Okay.
And we can't hear you.
Spotlight video. Unmute myself. I wonder how that happened.
Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Where did I lose you? Anybody
What?
know?
2 poses.
Okay, shoot. Okay, let's start with plank pose. Not sure what happened there. Internet connection maybe. So let's come into plank pose. We'll soften the knees and press through the crown. You're going to do reverse cobra. So dropping the knees to the floor. External rotation. Let yourself come through slowly so you release that back down to the floor. When you get there, forehead on your stacked hands. Tuck your toes. Lift your hips up into the sky. Breathe. Activate your core. Exhale, release. Inhale, cobra. Come up to tabletop. When you get there, swing your legs to the right so they're across the long edge of the mat. Turn your right hand out. Take your left leg straight. Open your left arm to the sky. Peek down at your left foot. Make sure it's parallel to the short edge of your mat. Release hips and shoulders back and take your arm up overhead. Turn the palm to the sky and stretch from left outer foot to the fingertips. And see if you can get into those sticky places in your reach. Good, and release. Come on down. Take a cleansing breath. We're going to do the same thing second side. So you're going to swing your legs to the long edge of the mat. Turn your left hand out. Stretch your right foot long, leg long, so it looks like side plank. Open your right arm to the sky. Swing it up overhead. Turn your palm face up. And then drop your shoulders and hips back. And do you feel that as you drop the shoulders and hips back, you're starting the back bend practice? You're already moving them closer towards each other in space that you have to do for back bends. So you might notice you get a little more belly stretch. Good. And then release that. We're just going to come to tabletop. Inhale to cow. Exhale to dog. Take a cleansing breath. Release the head out of the pose so the neck can lengthen. But keep the hands strong, like you're grabbing onto that pull-up bar that we did before. And you're stretching the whole side of the body, all the intercostals. It's just that strong external rotation up at the upper arm bones that'll keep you safe. Good. And inhale to tippy toes. Walk your way to the front of the mat, Uttanasana. Standing forward fold. Inhale, halfway up, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Utkatasana, with or without the block. I just want you to remember, you can even bring your hands into prayer here. I just want you to remember to squeeze, rotate, and lift. Abdominal strong. Inhale, fly all the way up, arms up overhead. Exhale, bring them down through prayer. Take a cleansing breath. Exhale, release your hands. Let's add on here. So inhale, fly. Exhale, dive. Inhale, halfway up, Ardha Uttanasana. Here we pause and we bend our right knee. And you'll feel you get a little more stretch in your left hip. So fingertips to blocker floor on the right. Open up your left arm to the sky. Take the arm up overhead. You can turn the palm face up here. Root the left hip back and stretch through your left fingers. Beautiful. Then release that. Bow deeply. Second side. We bend the left knee strongly. You start to feel the stretch in your outer right hip. Open the right arm to the sky. Stretch it overhead. Turn the palm face up. Reach from the right hip through the right fingers. Stretch through those intercostals. Good. Release that. Dive forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, halfway up, Ardha. Exhale, bend your knees. Take your right leg back to a lunge. Back knee to the floor. Square the hips off. So in order to do back bends, it's really important that you stretch your thighs. So keep your right hand on the floor. You can take it wide if you'd like, off the mat. Your left hand can come up onto your left thigh for a moment as you press down and rotate your body over to the left. So you're just doing a little twist here. And then you just kick up your back foot. And that might be enough. And you might feel a good stretch through the thigh. You might feel too much contraction in the hamstring though. So that's where you reach around. And you grab that foot and bring it in and feel the stretch on the back leg. If you kick that back foot away from you and isometrically pull with your hands, you'll get a nice spin through the chest. And a little back bend. Drop the hips and shoulders backwards. Breathe into your chest. And gently release. Good. Rock it forward and back. Uttanasana. Standing forward fold. Just take a pause here. Notice in your forward fold the difference you feel from left.
If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and check out my other videos. Namaste.
Exhale, bend the knees. Take the left leg back to a bend lunge. Go ahead and even out those hips. You can to the left a little bit. Then kick up the back foot. See how that feels. That might be enough. You're activating hamstring and stretching quadricep. Okay, then you're going to reach around if you want to go on with your right hand to the outer left foot, and you bring it in, feeling that quadricep stretch. If that's enough for you, stay there. If you want a little more, kick that foot, isometrically pull with the hand, and open the chest to the sky. And from there, you sit back. You lay the shoulders and the hips back in space. You just release them back so that you can feel the uplift of the heart. Breathe. One more breath. And release that. Go ahead and step back into plank. Take a cleansing breath there. We're going to see if we can take this into side plank. So right hand turns out to 2 o'clock. Right foot stacks on the outer edge. Left foot either stacks on top or in front. And then left arm opens to sky. Take it overhead. Turn the palm face up. Stretch from your left foot through your left fingertips. Relax shoulders and hips backwards. Stretch. And release. Second side, but we'll stop for a moment in tabletop. Let's sit on back with tucked toes, and let's just curl our wrists in the opposite direction. Remember this one where we try to take our own pulse? Looks like a little puppy begging, like boop, boop. And so try to get those fingertips right into the pulse point. Stretch those wrists in the opposite direction. Here we go, second side, side plank. I'm going to flip around so I can keep talking to you. Left hand turns out. We take plank pose. Left leg turns out and we step on the outside of that left foot. Right foot either stacks on top of left or stacks in front of left. Inhale, right arm to the sky. Take it overhead. Turn the palm face out and drop the hips and shoulders back. And you notice that unconscious holding we have of the hips forward and the shoulders forward. Release them back and feel the stretch through the belly. And then release that. Inhale to cow. Exhale to dog. Beautiful job. That was a nice challenging sequence. So take a moment to find your resting pose. Unlocking your knees. Reaching through the heels. Imagine pulling on a pull-up bar so the arms get active and stay connected into the pose. External rotation of the shoulders and extension through the crown. One more breath. Inhale, walk your hands back to meet your feet. I'm going to take a little bit of a hip stretch here. So walk your feet as wide as the sticky mat. Your heels can be in closer. You can have a blanket underneath your heels if squats are tough. You just start to bend the knees. Take your strong pose, a fierce pose. It's almost like chair pose, wide. And then try to squeeze the mat apart as the hips drop down. Squeeze the mat apart like you're trying to tear it in the middle. I have my elbows on my knees to help with that, and I keep tearing it, tearing it, tearing it, tearing it until my hips come all the way down. And that's the way you can come into a squat safely. And you just do this, especially in COVID times. A lot of us are gardening. Really important to have this strong ability to squat safely with gardening. One more breath. Beautiful. From here, we're just going to try to rock up onto our tippy toes, place our hands on the floor. Little surprise, surprise here, little crow prep. So I'm going to walk my feet a little closer to each other. And I'm going to try to bring my knees right up onto my upper arm bones. And I'm going to squeeze them as they push back. And then I come onto tippy toes and just bow forward a little bit, get a little more weight on my hands. We don't have to go up into full crow, but now take cat tilt. One more breath. And release that. Beautiful. Drop onto your knees. Take Vajrasana. Take a moment to rest. Take a breath. All right, we're going to do one more thigh stretch before we move into some more back bending poses. You're going to take your blanket. Got our pillow fold. We're making half pillow fold. So we're doing a nice long and narrow fold. We're going to place that on the right side of the mat, and we're going to sit on it so that our left leg is close to it. Our right leg, the one that's on it, actually is going straight. So and it's half Virasana. So you have your left leg tucked underneath you so that the heel is just right by the outer hip here, and the right leg is straight, but it's supported. So now the hips are square. Now there might be some of you who don't need the blanket. I know I need it, otherwise I get one hip that drops too low and it torques my lower back a little bit. So if you don't need it, you don't need it, but I think most of us do. From here, you're going to root the heel of the straight leg down and isometrically pull it back. And that should automatically bow you forward. So I'll say that again. You press the right heel down and you isometrically tuck it into the body, and that hinges you forward, and you just take the fold that you can. It doesn't matter how far you go. I want you to keep yourself from hanging your head. I want the neck to be in line with the heart, and you just breathe here and extend, fighting that hamstring stretch. One more breath. Good. And then come up, and then you just walk your hands behind you, fingertips pointing towards your booty, and you just walk back a little bit until you feel a stretch. Maybe you don't feel one. I don't feel one. I have pretty open quadriceps, so if you don't feel it, you come down onto forearms until you feel it. And if you don't feel it there, you could probably lay all the way back down, or you could just hammock your spine down here and let yourself feel that stretch through the quadricep. It's okay actually if the knee pops up a teeny bit at first, and then you use the foot, press it down on the floor, and extend the knee towards the opposite foot. And you should feel it. And you take another couple breaths here, getting strong and long through the quadricep. Make sure there's no external rotation on that thigh. So remember your thigh block. Squeeze the thigh block and see if that helps you. One more breath. And then inhale and gently make your way up. Nice big thigh stretch. You're going to just roll off of your blanket to the right and scoot it off to the left side of your mat. That's the straight leg support. So you scoot back up onto it. So that leg is straight. The other one comes into half Virasana. Now, if these don't work for you, be as high as you need to be. You could be on 2 blankets. You could be on 3 blankets if your right knee doesn't stretch like this. Otherwise, you take the left heel and root it down and isometrically pull it back as you bow forward. Remember those sitting bones? Remember your blocks? Those all get squeezed here as the sitting bones swing apart. And see if that helps you come a little bit lower without effort. A couple more breaths. Beautiful. Release out of that. Inhaling up. Here we go backwards. You just take your hands behind you on the mat, and you feel into that thigh. If it works for you, you're going to come down onto forearms. If it doesn't, no worries. You're just going to keep that block idea, the thigh and the shin block squeezing, and the belly lifting and pulling up. And breathing. One more breath here. Beautiful. And release. Come off of that blanket. Come onto your belly. Let's bring a block in for our first pose. we're gonna bring a block into right underneath our belly. So right at that place where you feel a little belly fat. So you really, the block does the work of the abdominals. It's so nice to be able to feel how that works so well when the abdominals are lifted in. The legs, the toes are not tucked, but the shin block is imaginarily working, and so is the inner thigh block. So you squeeze those legs, and then you lift up your arms behind you, supported Shalabhasana. Now, here we go. We roll the shoulders open and let the heart come forward. Roll the palms open, and then see if you can sweep them out into T. Roll them open again, lift it up. See if you can bring them forward. Oh, and then release them down and hang your head onto your stacked hands. If you can leave the block there, please do. You want it to rest right in that space underneath your ribs. So if there's any tightness in the diaphragm, the block is doing a really nice job of stretching it mechanically. It's like you're getting a little massage. It might not be the most comfortable, but take another breath here. I think the cause of so much back pain has to do, and maybe even hip pain, has to do with tight muscles in the belly. Okay, we're gonna try that a second time. So you can come onto forearms. Feel that block doing the work of abdominals. Make your shin block awake and your thigh block awake. Notice how that allows the spine to lift, and then you take your arms back in Shalabhasana. And remember, this could be as far as you go, but you rotate the shoulders open and up, turn the palms face out, sweep your hands into airplane. Rotate the shoulders out again, and sweep the hands up overhead. And release and lie forward, and let the belly block move into the belly. Take another breath or two. Okay, we've prepped and got ourselves ready for some great back bends, wheel pose. So you're going to come onto your belly again, and you're going to bend both knees. Now it could be that this is enough for you. My feet, my inner feet are touching so that I keep that inner rotation of the legs. I could just come up onto forearms here, and then I could make the legs strong and pull in the belly and just appreciate the work here. So that could be a first start, because that preps us into touching our feet to our head, which I can't even come close to, but it's a fun one to imagine that you could drop your hips and shoulders back and eventually tap your forehead to your toes. All right, and release that out. Come on back onto your belly. Kick your legs back up again and reach back and feel the tops of your feet. Take a cleansing breath. I'm going to keep my knees on the floor for this first one. I'm going to pull my belly in and up, and I'm going to kick my legs back, not lifting my knees. And I'm just going to stretch my shoulders, breathing. And if you try to kick your feet together, you'll get even more stretch for the shoulders. You just keep pressing those feet back and together and opening through the heart. And release down. Turn your head to the right cheek and rest. If you want to, you can roll your hips left and right and release tension out of them. Take a cleansing breath. All right, second time's a charm. Here we go. Bend the knees. Back bends get better with repetition as you stretch out. You're going to reach back for those feet. This time, our knees are going to lift up off the floor. But first, I want you to engage your abdominals. Good. Then kick up the feet. Then lift up the shoulders. See if you can squeeze the feet together and see if you can lift everything. Take the hips and the shoulders to the back plane. One more breath. Release. Take the left cheek to the floor. Relax your hands down and swing your hips left and right. Those are some poses that, unless you do a lot, they just don't get easier. They're always a challenge. We're really in those poses, we are counteracting all the work we do on computers, gardening, cooking, everything that we do that causes us to reach forward, okay? We've got one more, and you can repeat the ones we've just done if you'd like, any of them, the forearm or the Dhanurasana, the bow pose, or you can bend your knees, you can reach your right hand to your left ankle, cross over your wrist with your left hand till you grab your right ankle. So now my wrists are crossed, but my feet are not. They're together and they're strong, and then I kick back and lift up. And if you squeeze those feet together like you've got blocks, and if you externally rotate your shoulders, drop your hips and shoulders to the back plane, you'll get a phenomenal stretch. One more breath. Tuck the chin in, lengthen through the crown, and release. Beautiful job. Plant your hands, push up to tabletop, grab a blanket on your way, sit back in child's pose, bring the blanket into your lap and do one loop, one fold. Tuck that fold around your belly. Oops, have a block handy. Might need to do that again. Tuck it in around the belly, make a little horseshoe shape, then press down, lift up and over, and find a block for your forehead. Find that stretching out from the mid-back. Big toes are touching, knees are wide and apart. Breathe here. If you want to imagine that you're holding onto a pull-up bar, you can do that too. Yogi's choice. The other thing you can do is tuck your arms down by your sides, letting your armpits roll over the tops of your knees. So a couple different shapes you can do here. Find the one that you love. Breathe. I love this pose because I feel like I'm getting a little traction for my low back. Big deep breath up into anything that's tight. Take a minute to note inside, to go inside with your inner mind's eye and see where your spine resides in your body. Does it reside more to the left or to the right? Does it have different curves? If it does, try to use your abdominals to bring it to center. I find when I do that, sometimes when I bring my abdominal to center, then, or my spine to center with my abdominals, I'll notice a release in my back and hip. It's usually the habitual shaping of my body that causes trouble. And when I can shake that up and shift it a bit, I can usually find myself out of trouble. So stay connected even in your child's pose. It's an easy one to space out and think you can just hang out here. You can. That's always yogi's choice. But if you really want to work on the connection, start to visualize how your body shapes itself symmetrically in this pose. One more breath. Beautiful. Roll on up. Go ahead and roll your spine like you're unfurling a flag, and then bring your block off to the side. Take a moment to let all of that sink in. We're going to actually do a little bit of core work now. So tuck your blankets off to the side and your blocks. You're not going to need them for this. You're going to sit on your tush with your knees bent. And you're going to bring your heels in as close as you can to your hips here. And you're going to hug around your legs, and even if you can, grab the opposite elbow. So you're in the tuckiest little tuck that you can be. And then you remember your shin and thigh block, and you try to extend your spine here. And you're going to get strong in the core just by nature of this work. Pull the abdominals in and up. Breathe. Big deep breaths in, full breaths out. We've got a few more breaths. Really squeeze and lengthen. It's like you're using your legs to squeeze a tube of toothpaste. Get all the paste out of the base of the tube. Let's go for 2 more. Beautiful. Okay, from here, you're going to come onto your tippy toes, and you're going to try to stay in this pose without your arms. So you can take your feet a little farther away from you on tippy toes, and then you just reach your arms for 5 breaths. 1, 2. And you're going to feel it in your hip flexors. Those are a part of your core. So you're going to feel that. We're about on 3. 4. And 5. Now reach your hands underneath your thighs. Take Navasana, feet up into the air. Notice if it's easier for you now to have an extended spine. Stay there if you'd like, or 5 breaths in Navasana. Squeezing feet and shins towards one another. 2 more breaths. It's good if you start to shake. 1 more. Beautiful. Release your feet to the floor. You're going to round your spine as we articulate down. So start with your hands underneath your thighs. If you have a strap, you could try that too. See if you can take your time. See if you can take about 10 breaths to get there, where you pull the belly in and up. You're trying to traction the spine as you're trying to get each vertebra to have its time on the earth before the next one. When you get all the way down, stretch your arms overhead, interlace your fingers, long stretch. Go for a little cow tilt here. Make your legs strong on the mat, like you're trying to get your thighs as flat to the mat as possible. So you got to go into more cow tilt to get that. Keep going. Plant those thighs. Good. On your next exhale, keep that right thigh planted. Bring your left knee up and towards the chest without losing that beautiful lumbar curve you created. For me, I have to place a little weight into my head. I actually lift my torso up off the floor as I bring that knee in. So I have a little bitty back bend here. And then if it works for me, I can keep that cow tilt in the lower spine and begin to move the upper spine and relax it on the floor. 1 more breath. Beautiful. Take that leg out long again. Inhale your arms up overhead. Interlace your thumbs. Take your legs strong like Tadasana. Make your cow tilt. So try to get those thighs down on the floor. You can even press down with your head and lift your torso off the floor. But keep your hips and thighs strongly down. Keep your left leg down. Bring your right leg, knee into the chest. Hug it. Don't lose that lumbar curve. Keep that for a few breaths. If you want to try to keep the lumbar curve and lower the ribs and the back onto the floor, you can. Last breath. Beautiful. Drop that foot to the floor. Bend both knees. Stack your right leg over your left. Inhale. Exhale, bring your knees into the chest, reach down your shins and pull the ankles out to the side for external rotation. breath here. Use your strong arms to pull those ankles wide and release. Take the feet back to the floor. Take a cleansing breath. As you exhale, stack the left knee on top and bring them into the chest. Run your hands down your shins to your ankles and open up to the side. Just notice what you're doing here with your shoulders. Can you drop them back with the hips to the floor underneath you? Let them go back. They spend plenty of time coming forward with sitting and hunching over things. So we just drop them back. One more breath. And gently release. Unstack your legs. Take a cleansing breath. Arms can come out in T. Take a moment to lengthen your left arm as far away from you in your T as you can. And then sweep it up to the sky and start to rotate it, just your hand, not your legs. Your left hand over to your right hand. And you're going to lift your head off the floor and tuck your chin in. So you're just doing a nice rotation with the ribs. And then lay that back down. You're back in T pose. Notice how your left shoulder feels a little flatter on the floor and a little more expansive in the chest. Reach your right arm away from you as far as you can in your T. And then sweep it up into the sky. Keep your hips just where they are. Reach towards your right hand. Lift your head up off the floor. Tuck your chin in and reach both arms. Reach, 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 reach. And then release them back onto the floor and see if you feel a little wider there. Do you want to do that a second time? I love that one. So let's try it a second time. Reach your left arm in the direction of the T. Inhale it up and try to reach over to your upper hand, lifting your head off the floor and curling your upper spine until you can reach those hands as far as you can. And then release, drop it down, feel how that feels. Take a cleansing breath. Second side, reach your right hand in the direction of the T. Sweep it up, bring it over, reach to your left hand, curl, lift your head up. Keep your legs as even as you can, but curl the upper body, reach, 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 reach. Reach, reach, one more breath. Use your abdominals. And then relax it back. Feel into that pose. Beautiful. Take your right ankle over your left. Let the knee drop out to the side. Find center. Find symmetry. Take a breath. As you exhale, reach your hands underneath and around your thigh, your left thigh or your left shin, and stretch that heel into, or that ankle into your chest. That would be like a cat tilt. So if you want, curl up and see if you can touch forehead to ankle. And breathe. Good. Now come on back. Keep the general shape of the pose, but take cow tilt. And just notice the difference. Drop your hips and shoulders back as best you can. It's not that one is better than the other. We both want flexion, extension. It's just most of the time we're in flexion. So I think ending in extension is a really nice way to balance that out. Last breath. You're dropping hips and shoulders back. Little bit of back arch. And then release out of that. Drop your right foot to the floor. Take a cleansing breath. Bring your left ankle over onto your right knee. Take a moment to symmetrize. Is that a new word? Let's hope. Let's hope we can coin it as a new yoga word. Symmetrize your body. Like, make sure that the right shoulder, right hip, left hip are pretty even on the floor. Exhale, reach through the thigh on the right or around the shin on the right. Either way, you're just going to curl and bring this into cat shape. So you curling and bring head to ankle. Noticing the difference left to right, how it shapes itself, how it's harder or easier. One more breath. And then we finish that same pose, keeping the same general shape, and see if you can take a cow tilt. Dropping the hips and shoulders back towards the back plane of the body. I think it's a subtle action, but to me it's a really important action. One more breath here. And gently release. Now, I don't know if you have walls. If you have walls, I highly recommend at this point legs up the wall pose. If you don't have a wall, you're gonna have to do it with me with a block, but I'll demonstrate for anybody that needs it and has a wall. You take your pillow fold and you place that pillow fold against the wall. I mean, not pillow fold, half pillow fold against the wall so that it's maybe 2 inches away from the wall. And then you're gonna sit against the wall so your right hip rests on that blanket. And you're just gonna keep the back of the hip, the right hip is resting on the blanket, the very tippy edge of the blanket. You're gonna have your hips flat against the back of the wall. And then you reach your right hand out as you swing your legs up the wall. That would be ideal. If you can do that, and you might need a little blanket roll for your neck, that would be the best way to finish class today. If you can't do that because you don't have an empty wall, then you take a block or a blanket, you place it underneath your hips, and you take your legs straight up into the sky, arms out in T. And then you just gotta find, because you don't have a wall, you're just gonna have to find the place where you're balanced. Now, if you had a chair, a folding chair, or a piano bench, you could put that underneath your shins here, the back, or your calves, and make your legs at a right angle. So that's another option for you too. Otherwise, let's just rest here for about 5 minutes. And you can take different shapes here on the wall. So I'm going to demonstrate that from this wall, in case you need it. So your legs are up the wall. You can have the legs straight if you're on the wall. You can have them in a squat where the feet are parallel to each other and drawing down towards your hips, and just feel an open squat position. You can have the soles of the feet together dropping down and the knees out to the side. And you can have wide angle where the legs go out to the side. So yogi's choice here, make yourself as comfortable as possible in this inversion so that your legs are higher than your heart and you get a chance for your back to rest. This pose is called Viparita Karani. Legs up the wall, and is generally considered one of the best poses for your back in yoga. And there's many reasons for that. One reason is that with that little blanket underneath your hips, you're automatically moving the lumbar spine in and up, so that you're stretching your hamstrings. There's a minor hamstring stretch there with a lumbar curve, because often when we stretch the hamstrings, we round the back, and this keeps that lumbar curve. The other thing this pose does for you is it releases the thighs into the back plane of the body. And the other thing that this does for you, if you take your arms out in T, palms face up, it automatically stretches across your chest. And then finally, if you let the weight of your legs drop down into the hip sockets, that is an antidote to sitting because it drops them back and inner rotates them. And then if you let the image of the pose be such that you had a deep chasm or a deep lake in your belly, it starts to relax all the belly muscles and organs down towards the floor and takes a lot of stress off of them. So there's all the benefits. You're multitasking here without having to do too much. In fact, the goal, if you will, is to let go. And to breathe, of course, and let that breath just travel through your spine like the waves on the shore. And you can start with a few rounds of Ujjayi where the throat is narrowed down so that the sound of the breath through the narrowed throat is very calming for the mind and allows the mind to ride the breath. It brings you into presence, brings you into connection, mind, body, breath, connection. And at some point, it's okay to let go of the Ujjayi and let go of the breath and just let yourself be breathed. You're welcome to stay here. If this feels super good and you haven't tried any of the other positions like legs wide or squatted or Supta Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together, I encourage you to try at least one of those other poses. Otherwise, if this pose is starting to make you feel antsy and uncomfortable, you can come out and you can come and meet me in sitting. But I don't mind you staying there. We've got just a couple more minutes left. For those of you who'd like to meet me in sitting, you can. For those of you who'd like to stay a little longer, please do. Move into the last moments of our practice. Again, stay if you'd like. Come to sitting if you'd like. We finish up our practice with our practice of gratitude. The most challenging sometimes and the most profound of all spiritual practices is finding gratitude. So we give thanks for our practice. We give thanks for the ability we have to come to it. We give thanks for this space and this time in our lives, for each other, and for our teachers. And we take a moment to send that gratitude, send that expansive feeling out into the world. Let it blanket over hurting places. And we seal that, or I will seal it for you if you're still resting, with a breath
and an Om together. The divine in me honors the divine in you. Namaste.
Namaste.